Hi everybody, this is Matthew with the Central Michigan CISMA. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this video. Hopefully it'll be pretty brief. We're going to talk about the tree of heaven. And the reason we wanted to focus on this, it's maybe not the worst invasive in terms of rate of spread and things like that, although we're seeing it spread more and more as time goes on. But the reason it's a plant of more major or growing concern these days is because it's a host plant for the spotted lanternfly. That's an invasive insect that is currently in Pennsylvania and some parts of Ohio, but that'll be a bit of a mess when and if that gets here to Michigan. But it's not here yet, but because the tree of heaven is a host plant for that, I am guessing that there will be more attention and press starting to get devoted to the tree of heaven here. So we're going to talk about a few ways to help identify it, some of the things that it looks similar to, and kind of the treatment process that's happening around me. I'll show you some footage of that in just a second. But fortunately, there's a lot of downed material here to kind of work with and show you. So that's what I'm going to do. Right now, we're looking up at the one that's left standing, kind of the main tree of heaven that's in this area. You can take a look at some of the structure on the leaflets, but I'm going to grab some from this downed one here in just a second and get it up close. So you can see straight away the stem on this is a reddish purplish color. It's pretty bright and vibrant. And then we have all the different leaves here, leaflets rather. And for those of you that are pretty familiar with your native trees, it has a very similar kind of structure and shape to sumac or to walnut. But one of the ways that you can kind of tell it apart is at the edge here. See how it's focusing. You get these little notches. You follow it all the way down. It's got that standard kind of teardrop shape, but then right towards the end, there's a little notch. And if you turn it over, see if we can get it to focus here. Maybe not. There's even these little nodes on those little cutouts, a little raise there. It goes, that little raised section there. That's one of the ways to tell it apart. This won't come through on video, but one of the main ways to tell it apart from other things is the smell of it. It's very distinct. I've seen it described as kind of a odd or rancid peanut butter smell, and that's really accurate. Having smelled it for myself, I think that is the best way to describe it. But it's one of those things, once you get near it and around it, you'll know it when you smell it. Taking a look at some of the branches on it here, some of the sections of the leaflets, you can see where the where these leaflets connect to the branches. It kind of has this heart or spade shape to it. More issues with focusing. Let's see. Maybe not. This will be a better example anyway. We just pick this right up. Those will fall off periodically, and you'll be left with scarring along the branches in kind of a heart shape or spade shape along some of the older branches. Older branches there, it's another way to tell. And the younger the branches on this tree get, the more they'll kind of appear smooth and less of the traditional bark. I'm going to move over here for a second so we can get a better idea of that. So here's this kind of copperish, brownish, not too smooth, not particularly rough. You go even further to where it's grown the leaflets, and you get this almost kind of fleshy green stem on it. And then, of course, the very flexible and green leaflets that will get kind of reddish. But as you travel down that branch, you'll start to see it transition to that copperish, to more of a light brown. You start to see the bark get a little more rough. And then once you get down to the main trunk of the tree, the body of it, if you will, it's a pretty traditional looking bark. It's gray, it's relatively rough. It's not smooth like a beech tree, but it's not as rough as maybe like an oak or a maple, but just a pretty typical bark. So nothing too special there, but that transition in the texture and color of it is a way that can help too. So One of the ways that this tree spreads is it does have seeds. I don't see any of the little seed pods around here, which is a good thing, but I can't really show you what those look like. Maybe I'll post a picture later on. But it spreads, actually, the roots will spread out and then make essentially little satellite plants. And if we can have a look at some of the stumps in the area that have been cut, there should be one straight ahead in the frame there. There's one under that kind of downed log. And a couple right here just below where we're at. And it will spread out, and this will actually come back up from the ground where the roots are at and make new trees that way. So a bit of an unusual way of spreading. But what's going to happen here is these have all been cut down, and then these stumps will be treated with some an herbicide to kill off the roots, because it's not like you can pull up the whole structure from the roots like you can with most other plants, because it's a big interconnected network of these roots. So, and we're curious to see if that will actually end up making its way back and have any effect on this main tree of heaven tree here. We're hoping that it does, but we'll see, and I'll report back with that as we get a little bit further on. So there's just a bit about tree of heaven and why it's a plant of concern at the moment. I hope you learned something, but if this wasn't quite enough for you, feel free to ask questions about this or any other plant. We appreciate you stopping by and checking this out.